What is the new alternative to Ozempic for weight loss? I'm going to share with you a peptide that's even better than Ozempic and a unique peptide stack that will help you maintain muscle while you're losing the fat. I'll tell you about a client who not only lost the weight that she wanted to lose, but she gained lean muscle mass while on this stack. In this video, I'll show you how to avoid Ozempic face and maintain muscle mass and avoid any kind of deterioration. By the end of this video, you'll know the best peptide stack that's even better than Ozempic for weight loss. Okay, so many of you have seen people who have had amazing experiences with Ozempic. One of the things that people don't understand is Ozempic is a peptide, and it's a peptide called semaglutide or semaglutide. And the powerful thing about this peptide is it's called a GLP-1 agonist. So it actually is naturally occurring in your body, and it's the peptide that lets us know when we're hungry. So I have a client and he came to me because he couldn't lose weight. He was frustrated. He actually hired a chef to come live in his house. He hired a trainer, and the trainer watched every single thing he put in his mouth for a full year. And at the end of the year, Jeff thought, okay, I'm going to lose the weight that I want to lose, and he didn't. He lost 15 pounds and then just got stuck. His goal was to get to 150 pounds. He got to 185 and the needle wouldn't move. He was watching what he ate, he was exercising, everything that conventional medicine has taught us about weight loss. He disproved all of those theories just in his year-long experiment that cost him tens of thousands of dollars. When I met Jeff, I said, have you heard of GLP-1s? And he's like, yes, I have, but I heard it's just like, weight loss. I don't want to be on anything that's not natural. And I explained to him that GLP-1 agonists, these peptides naturally occur in our bodies. And so we got him on Ozempic in the beginning, or semaglutide, and he noticed that now the weight started to move. He started to lose weight. But what he also had was a lot of acid reflux. He had indigestion. He just didn't quite feel good digestively. And so then we said, let's bring on tirzepatide. Tirzepatide is a dual agonist, so it's a GLP-1 and a GIP. And once we changed that up, and we also had him on a growth hormone releasing peptide called ipamorelin. And ipamorelin helps maintain the muscle mass because you're increasing growth hormone. And once we made that little shift, we started to see it. Not only did his digestive issues go away, but he started losing weight. And over the course of 6 months, he was able to shave off 20 pounds that nothing else had been able to touch. Not only that, but he was able to maintain his muscle mass, and actually he got stronger in the gym. He was sleeping better, and it helped his brain function. And the side benefit is he actually stopped his craving for alcohol. And that was one of the things he hit me up a couple months into the program, and he said, hey Regan, I don't crave wine anymore. And I have this massive collection of really amazing wines, but I don't even like it. And that's one of the powerful things of these GLP-1s is it's not just working on this weight loss pathway. Like we think of weight loss drugs as like phentermine, where you just speed up the metabolism and people end up having heart issues. But these GLP-1s are magical because what a lot of doctors miss and what a lot of people criticize is the fact that we live in a society where we have access to food 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. And so our brains lose that ability to know when we're full. And so that's called a loss of nutrient sensing. It's actually one of the 12 hallmarks of aging. And so once we started incorporating these GLP-1 peptides into our treatment protocols, we have such a very targeted range of results from cardiovascular health. So we see people's lipid profiles come down, we see the triglycerides come down. We also notice that they can maintain muscle mass. And you may be asking like, well, all I heard is people lose muscle, and there's a study that shows that people who took GLP-1s, when they got off of them, all the weight came back. Now, the problem is those studies are actually true. But what happened is the teams that they're working with, whoever prescribed Ozempic, first of all, they're prescribing it at a higher dose than what we would ever prescribe in our clinic. The second mistake that was made is that dose being too high, people's appetite turned off, but they didn't change their lifestyle. So they still had the sedentary lifestyle. And if you look at some of the studies on longevity, if you want to extend your health span and your lifespan by 27 to 31%, all you need to do is focus on exercising 400 to 600 minutes every single week. Now, that's one of the criteria. Whenever we're going to put somebody on these peptides for weight loss, we always say, well, the beautiful thing about this, you're going to be able to lose that craving. You can actually be around food and not feel like you have to devour it all, because you'll notice that your fullness sensing is gone. But if you exercise, you'll actually gain muscle. And that's what we've seen. We do DEXA scans on our clients. We do StyQ, which is like a rotational device that uses infrared imaging so we can sense how much visceral fat and adiposity you've got versus your muscle mass. And what we've seen in hundreds of cases of this is where we'll typically see an increase in lean muscle mass by 5% in 6 months, which is substantial. And we'll see a decrease in visceral fat by 13%. And this is not just using Ozempic, but this is where we went to tirzepatide, and then the new magical peptide is called Retatrutide. And Retatrutide is interesting because most people have never even heard of this. But Retatrutide, one of the things that it is it's a triple agonist. And I know I'm using these crazy words like, what's a triple agonist? It's like, this is where you have 3 peptides stacked in one single treatment. So if you remember, semaglutide or Ozempic is 1 peptide, it's a GLP-1. And then you go to tirzepatide, which is 2 peptides, it's a GLP-1 agonist plus a GIP. And then you go to Retatrutide, which is a triple agonist. And the third peptide that's in that molecule or that stack is called glucagon. Glucagon used in and of itself, that did not make it through any clinical trials. It actually, we found that people who used that, they did have some performance enhancement in their liver, but over time they didn't really lose weight. Or if you use just a GIP in and of itself, it helps with better insulin sensitivity and secretion of insulin at the right time. But what we found is it didn't really lead to weight loss. But the GLP-1 in and of itself, it did seem, obviously through the studies, they found that it did help with weight loss, it helped with diabetes, and originally that drug was FDA approved to treat diabetes, and then later on obesity, which is very hard to get approval for. But now what we're seeing is peptides are not meant to be used individually in most cases. And this is where it's really exciting. And what I wanted to talk to you about today is the fact that if you are on Ozempic or Mounjaro or any of these GLP-1 weight loss medications, that's phenomenal, but there's a right way to do it and a wrong way. And the right way to do it is to stack multiple peptides. And so that's what Retatrutide's done, and you'll see this come out on the market probably, by the time this video shows, probably in 6 months to a year. But Retatrutide, this triple agonist, what they found in the clinical results is that participants lost up to 24% of their body weight in using this over the course of 48 weeks. And they found that they had a much better result than the participants who used Ozempic or Wegovy or Mounjaro. And that's where it's really exciting, because they are actually finding that not only are people having a performance enhancement from Retatrutide, but they're also noticing that people have a little better athleticism. They have more motivation to exercise. And you'll learn in future videos that there's other peptides that we use to help you recover. So BPC 157. This is a phenomenal peptide because it's angiogenic. You get better vascularity in your blood supply. You also will notice that your muscles recover easier. So we use BPC 157 with Retatrutide or tirzepatide. And then we're also finding if you can activate the growth hormone pathway with different growth hormone releasing peptides, like one that we love is called AOD 9604. Now you guys probably want to slap me because of all these weird acronyms and names, but if you think of AOD, what it's classified as is anti-obesity drug. That's what it was originally studied for. In fact, one of the studies, they took 300 participants who had type 2 diabetes, they had obesity, and they used AOD 9604. And the mechanism of action of this peptide is it works on the hypothalamic pathway for growth hormone secretion. And they found that these participants in the study, not only were they able to gain more insulin sensitivity, but they're able to experience a greater level of fat loss, specifically in the midsection. And so AOD, being a growth hormone releasing peptide, when you stack that with BPC 157, with your GLP-1s, what we found in our clinical research and in our clinical trials with many of our patients that we've worked with is that their gains in muscle mass are phenomenal. Like I mentioned before, we have an average gain of lean muscle mass of 5% in 6 months, but they also feel more athletic. They're more likely to work out. And then with the BPC 157, which is made by human gastric secretions, it's actually made in your stomach, you'll notice that you have fewer episodes of maybe acid reflux or indigestion that's very common with GLP-1s. And you may be asking, well, why do I get acid reflux? Why would these cause any issues in my digestive system? Well, the first thing that you want to think about is that it's slowing down gastric motility. So you're actually slowing down the way that your body is absorbing these nutrients. And when you slow it down, there can be some side effects of having a little bit of indigestion. So BPC 157, what it does is it increases your metabolic rate. You can break down proteins easier, you get better nutrient sensing, and then you don't have any of those uncomfortable side effects that many people deal with on the GLP-1s. The secondary impact that we've seen is a lot of the people we work with, primarily entrepreneurs, they have a really hard time focusing, and they're pulled in many directions. And if you go into my channel, you'll find that there's a lot of videos on cognitive enhancement, execution, how to activate parts of your brain. There's nootropics that we cover. But one of the things that we found that's very fascinating is that these GLP-1s actually work as a nootropic, and they stop that sympathetic nervous system where your brain's always going 1,000 miles per hour in so many different directions. But what we found is those people end up having a lot of loose stools because their digestive system isn't harmonized. So if you're somebody who you notice you go to the bathroom 3 or 4 times a day, when you get on these GLP-1s like Rejuvenate, you'll notice that your bowels work a lot better. You have nice, healthy formed stools. You don't feel that need to rush to the bathroom. And then what that allows your body to do is to take in the nutrients, to break down the proteins, so you can actually start building some very lean muscle mass. And it's very empowering. The third thing that this does is it creates insulin sensitivity. And so a lot of the people who are critical of these GLP-1s, what they say is, well, you're just going to lose muscle mass. But actually, if you think of insulin, and you bodybuilders out there, you'll know what I'm saying, is insulin is one of the most anabolic hormones in the body. And what insulin will do is, if you create insulin sensitivity, you'll build muscle so much faster. Not only that, but your energy levels will be smooth. Because when we build your Ageless Future Operating System or your body operating system, we're always focused on 3 things. You know, how well do you generate energy? What lifestyle do you have? Where do you need to change? And then what fun experiences are you having in life? And if your energy's all over the place, that's when we become slaves to food. You know, that's when we want to eat all the time, we get distracted, we end up, rummaging in the pantry. But this insulin sensitivity is a great way of protecting yourself. And so one of the things we found with Rejuvenate is and with tirzepatide, if you really want to maximize your benefit, then what you're going to want to do is stack multiple peptides in your protocol. And so this is where you'd use the growth hormone releasing peptides like CJC 1295 or AOD 9604. You're also going to want to use something for the digestive system like KPV or BPC 157. There's a phenomenal peptide called Peptides by one of my favorite pharmacists, Leonard Pastrana, and it's an oral peptide that we have a lot of our clients take, and it helps them feel more energized, they have better digestion, but they recover better from workouts. We're gonna have you building muscle. And then the final one, if you do need a little bit of a nootropic, a little boost, and if your appetite's still just kind of nagging, because we do put you on a microdose of these GLP-1s, then that's where we can use a peptide called tesofensin. And tesofensin works on the dopamine, the serotonin, and epinephrine pathways. So your challenge today, for those of you who are looking to optimize your health, is to figure out what peptide stack works best for you. Get your blood work, you can send it to us. Feel free to send it to Regan at agelessfuture.com, and we'll take a look at your blood labs and see what peptide stack works best for you. And for those of you who love this video, you want to go deeper, you can go to agelessfuture.com and download my Peptide Blueprint book for free, and I'll see you in the next video.